Okay, folks, are you finished your little chinwag over there? All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the February 11th Special Committee Meeting of the Whole. And the City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territories upon which we gather with gratitude. We have two opportunities today so that we can discuss the food vending services in our park. The first one, I'd like to hear from both parties, and then when we're done that, then we can have as many questions as you wish. How's that? Does that sound fair? This is a committee of the whole, so it's very informal. You can just put up your hand if you wish to speak, and we'll recognize you from here. All right, for everybody. Thank you. So, PBDA. Hi. Do you have a presentation you'd like to give us? Yes, please. Yeah, we should do something.
Oh, the talking guy.
There you go.
Okay. So I am here representing the PDBA today. Thank you for inviting us to comment on the food trucks in the park. The PDBA remains the same the PDBA's position remains the same as in 2017 when we were last asked to comment on the food trucks. We understand that the food trucks are a draw for some visitors. They do, in a way, hinder our visitors from coming to our downtown core. But I do understand, I recognize that they are a draw. What we would like to see is for more of those visitors to not stay in the park and to come downtown. The food trucks do add competition to our brick and mortar businesses that are businesses that provide the levy that pay to be part of the PDBA. So I would ask that if it's to be considered that only the chamber, we would ask that it be considered that the chamber come on as either a member or associate member, but as well as the food trucks that will be operating in the park. I know currently the chamber is an associate member, which costs $100, and I would hope that that could continue. Yeah, that's, I think, about as much as I have.
Thank you. Any questions for the PBDA? Okay. Kim? Oh, sorry. Hold on. We have a question.
Hi, Christy. This contract expired last year at the end of September. So when we asked for comments from the PDBA and from the Chamber of Commerce, one of my questions was also whether or not you would submit a proposal to look after the food trucks in the park.
Unfortunately, we haven't had an opportunity to meet as a board on any of this. I would say that at this time, I do not feel like we have the staffing available to make that happen. But again, I would have to refer back to the board as I don't have the information on that.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry, didn't see your hand there.
Yeah, Hi, Christy. Thanks for coming up today. Just a question. You mentioned that you feel that the food truck members, the food truck individual business owners themselves should be members of the BIA?
I would say at least associate members. The levy that we pay as business owners and property owners goes to advertising, extensive advertisement and marketing for our downtown, our Parksville downtown, which the food trucks, as the park is a part of our downtown core and our BIA, right. That the food trucks are gaining benefit from our marketing dollars.
Okay, so would you be in an associate BIA position? Would it be then a reduced rate then from a full-time member?
That's right now. The associate membership is $100.
Okay,
as more of a courtesy, I believe is.
So just for my own interest, Christy, the associate members would be $100 per year then?
That's what it is right now.
And what is it, a full?
We
full
don't
ride?
have that. We've never had, again, I would have to go back to the board, but as far as, we've never had a membership come from outside. This is the first time that we've ever had this kind of thing happen.
I'm suggesting, what is then your full ride for, say, a bricks and mortar downtown business right now?
It's all based on
over?
property taxes.
Okay, that's fine.
It's what the business owners pay for property taxes, and then we're, as a business owner.
Okay, good to know. You're offering a reduced rate, because it would actually be for an only certain
Temporary
period of the year.
part. Yeah.
It's only for 4 or 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
Christy, just as a couple points from myself, if you
Yeah.
would. During our campaign and conversations with some of the downtown merchants, one of the complaints is that they felt that the trucks took business away from the downtown restaurants. Is that in fact the case? Or do we know that to be the case? Do we feel that to be the case?
All I can say is what I feel is we haven't had an opportunity to poll our membership. We'd love to do that. We just haven't. We didn't have enough time to get those numbers to you. But I mean, definitely when there's food down at the park, it discourages the visitors to come into the downtown core. And once those visitors come into the downtown core to eat, they're likely going to shop as well and spend more money, whether they're locals or tourists. So it's just another reason for them to stay in the park and not come downtown.
Okay. Councillor Chandler.
Hello, Christy. Thank you for coming and making your presentation. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions in regards to the membership and associate membership. Would that, knowing that essentially there's an issue and a concern, I guess, in some ways over the trucks maybe taking away from downtown, I think we see it a lot of times in the summertime. You can't get a seat in most of the restaurants, and at lunch hour you can't get a seat. So would there be an openness to the idea of putting trucks in the downtown as part of this whole program where they're in the park, and you're saying they're a bit of a draw? Would there be a possibility of having them in the town, which we've tried to do for years, to revitalize that whole downtown core and get some more activity down there, more excitement?
I'm sure that there absolutely could be a possibility. Again, I would have to go back to my board and discuss that, as we haven't had that come up as of now. But if you guys were to approach us about that, we can definitely give an opinion on that as a whole, not just me. Yeah.
As a previous operator myself, I know that I tried to get something going with downtown for quite some time, and we tended to see a lot of backlash just from a perspective of the unknown. I mean, the concern and so on. But I know as an operator trying to get lunch at Saigon Gardens or any of these other places at the lunch hour when most people eat, it's very difficult to get a spot. So.
I think that the food trucks are a draw. You can look in many cities; they definitely do draw people into them. It would be nice to, have more of that. But again, I can't, decide on our
No, of course not.
other membership,
Yeah.
our food and beverage membership, as to whether or not it would impact them. And I think it would have to be a decision of the whole.
Okay, and then, because of that, sometimes we look at the food and beverage members, and, that's obviously a big factor for this particular subject. But again, with having trucks down there, it benefits 300 plus businesses that would essentially be a draw for shopping as well. And so I think that's kind of another way to think about it and look at it. So I'm glad you're here just to sort of take that back on our behalf on that way. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Councillor Fraz.
To Christy, through your worship. Thank you. Let me see if I can sing to that tune. I don't know why it's... Let's see here. Christy, my question was just in regards to the associate membership there. You said it's $100. You're asking about the chamber to participate to that. Understanding that when the chamber, when they've had those 2 spaces before, they rotated a number of trucks. Let's say it was 10 trucks or so, and whatever it would be. Would you be asking for each truck to be paying that, or would it just be the chamber itself, like at 2 pads at $200, or $1,000 depending on how many trucks?
I believe that, I mean, we haven't really had an opportunity to sit down and talk about it as a board. Our board meeting isn't for another couple weeks. So when we did speak a little bit about it, I know that currently the chamber has already held an associate membership. However, the food trucks individually haven't. And I think that going forward that it would be nice to have each individual food truck that is going to be in the downtown core also hold an associate membership as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's the clarity I was looking for.
Any other questions? Sure, yeah, you can, yeah, that's fine. Councillor Greer?
Hi, Christy. I didn't realize the food trucks were as popular as they are. I was talking to my daughter, and she tells me that the food trucks, of course, she's come out of Victoria. She says that they're extremely popular, that people follow them with an app on their iPhone or whatever. I was surprised to know that people followed food trucks, but apparently they do. So that makes it quite interesting to know what to do with food trucks, whether they should be down in the park or up here. But from her perspective anyways, I understand that they're very popular.
I know that that we have had a food truck in our downtown core. They had rented a space on Craig Street, on the first block of Craig Street, right where across from the Scotiabank. They rented that space last summer, and so it was a big draw. They were quite busy most of the time that they were there. I know that because they were renting a space off of a business or a property owner, that they did have to pay they would have been charged that somehow for that levy, I'm sure as well. So it is a draw to have them in the downtown. I know that people do absolutely look for food trucks. They've got a big following.
Councillor Wilson.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for coming. So I did a little bit of research just to see what other cities and the feedback on food trucks. And I guess one of the things that came up as a consistent theme is that brick and mortar, they're brick and mortar, and people will always want to eat, sit down in a restaurant and eat. And the people that, usually the younger generation, millennials, they like the food trucks and they want that quick, convenient, grab a bite. But, people really still want to sit down in a restaurant and have that experience. So, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know, I guess. And I guess it's also the other thing that came up as another theme throughout is that brick and mortar have to really make their experience special to draw people in as well. So that's just some feedback I found.
The one thing I would say is that the brick and mortar businesses are open year round. They have to employ year round. They have to pay rent year round. They have to pay the levy every year. They don't have the option of only being able to benefit off of the busy times or off of the summer. So I guess that would be the difference with a brick and mortar is, they have it a little bit tougher, but it's also, we don't want to make it any tougher on them.
For sure. And one of the other things as well is there perhaps the possibility that some of these food truck entrepreneurs might actually grow enough that they can open a brick and mortar perhaps as well, that possibility.
Okay, let's move that along. Thank you, Christine. Kim, please.
Try that one. So I don't have a whole lot prepared. I wasn't exactly sure what our format was going to be. But maybe start with a little bit of history. When the city made the determination that they were going to close the concession stand in the park and turn it into a washroom facility, the city actually approached the Chamber of Commerce at that time to ask if we would be willing to organize some mobile food vendors so that there would be the opportunity of having food in the community park. Council of the day, I guess, thought it was important, and I totally agree that it is important when people are in the community park. I think they want to have the option of having some kind of a food service down there. With regard to whether or not we're holding people in the park because there's that option down there, I know it's always been an ongoing debate about how do we move people from the community park up into the downtown core. It's something that we've been approached as a chamber. It's something that's been talked about in the community. It's been talked about at the council table. The funicular, I know that there's been a proposal of various means of conveyance, including zip lines. So I don't believe, and the research that I've read in other communities, albeit much larger communities, food trucks don't necessarily compete directly with bricks and mortar. They are a draw, which then brings people into town to participate in our other businesses, including bricks and mortar businesses. So at this point in time, we're interested in being the vendor, being the organizer again. We've looked at the RFP that was put out at the last council meeting. We've had some conversations with the food trucks that have participated with us in the past with regard to some of the concerns that were raised, mostly centered around garbage. We're looking at figuring out some ways to mitigate those things, including seeing if we can't bring another dumpster into the community park, maybe over by the arena parking lot, to deal with the garbage specifically collected in and around the food truck area. We're interested in providing the service. The food trucks provide jobs in the community. They provide a service in the community. I'd love to see them in the downtown as well as in the community park. I know that the one that was on that lot that Christy mentioned did well enough that he felt it was important for him to be there as much as possible. So I think there's an opportunity there. And I'm happy to take whatever questions you might have.
Questions? Councillor Greer.
Just one idea that I was thinking about when it comes to competition from the park to uptown is that if we were to limit the number of the venues down in the park, such as only serving park-type food, such as hamburgers, hot dogs, fries, pop, ice cream. That's it. But it seems like the more trucks we get, the more big meals we're serving, and that would certainly hurt the uptown. But if we could have the food truck stick to 5 or 6 items that are usually familiar with a park and a beach, then I think that there might not be so much backlash on that. What do you think of that?
And don't forget Mini Donuts. She's one of the best, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I don't understand, why there'd be a donut place on a beach. You know, it's
very popular. You know what? As part of the RFP, we submit the menus for each one of the vendors that we've asked to participate with us. I'm trying to think. There's pizza, there's burgers, there's fries, there's mini donuts, there's ice cream. I would say it is mostly park food. There are a number of trucks out there that serve a variety of foods. Food's a big deal now. Food's a much bigger deal than when I was growing up. There's all kinds of varieties. We've got one truck that does a fusion North American Filipino. I really don't have any idea what they serve because I haven't eaten there. But food is it's more than just a lunch item. It seems to be more of an experience now. So I'm happy to restrict if you want, but I don't think that that's a great idea. People want what they want.
Just as a point, so I could, the contract very specifically dictates that they shouldn't be selling French fries and hamburgers and things like. In fact, it specifies healthy food, which it depends on what day of the week you're at as to what is healthy or not. But the reality is that the contract is very specific. That you're only allowed so much percentage of your sales to be in unhealthy foods, and so much percentage of your business, 50% has to be in the healthy foods. So I don't think it's the food trucks as much. I don't know if the donuts, but you know what? The donuts are a good thing for you. They make your life go a lot longer than they normally would. So I'm all in favor of that. And the mini donuts are actually quite good. So I'm all for it.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not knocking mini donuts because I absolutely love them, but I'm also a salad and fusion and pasta and veggie bowls, and I'm at the unique opportunity that I have had a food truck and I have a brick and mortar business, and I'm a member of the chamber and I'm a member of the PDBA, so I'm well aware of the challenges. And if I was polled, and that by either organization, I would tell you that my answers would be that I would like to see food trucks in the community park on a limited basis. I don't believe that we need more than 5, ever, no matter how much we grow, except for the events in the park like Canada Day and some of the other larger venues. Sandcastles and a couple other where we have thousands of people in the park. I can tell you from a point of view of the market on Craig Street that it is a definite hindrance to the downtown businesses in food in the downtown core. I should probably shut my doors on a Tuesday night. It costs me more in labor and being open most of the time, unless it's cold. And then people want to come in and enjoy a hot cup of coffee or a hot meal and sit down in comfort. So those are some of the comments that would come back from a brick and mortar business that pays taxes and has memberships to both organizations. So I think I'm in a unique position to offer that back.
Thank you. Councillor Frass? Councillor O'Brien's next.
And to Kim, through your mayor, I don't know why this mic is humming so much. Curious as what the amount of food trucks that you have come on board with the chamber for it, and if just looking at the terms here for this RFP is the recommendations for 3 years. If you were to get the 3-year contract, does that lock out any other food trucks from then being able to access the park in those 3 years? Just maybe you could tell me a little bit what that relationship is like.
So when we started down this road, we were working with 5 trucks, and those 5 trucks, we loosely formed an organization. Councillor Chandler was involved. We promised them that they would have all of the opportunity to be in the park if we were successful with the RFP. We followed through. We've continued to follow through with that promise. We have added. I just checked with. Just want to introduce Caitlin Woon, who is our events coordinator for the chamber. Caitlin has taken on the job of cat herding in terms of setting schedules and all of those things. It's a very complicated process. I think we have 6 or 7 right now that are participating. And as I said, we met with all of them last week just to go over a few things. we would like to give people as much opportunity as we can, but at the same time, we want to honor the commitments that we made when we started down this road.
I guess the question though too is what opportunity is, if there's a new food truck that comes to town then and you're halfway through that contract, for them to jump on board and be able to access the park?
Yeah, we had Knock and Anna come in for a little while. They were a new truck. They actually decided they didn't want to be down there. They've moved on, I believe, to Qualicum Beach. We had Papa's Burgers last year. He came in and filled in some shifts. So there is opportunity, and we don't exclude people. When we set a schedule, all of these trucks have other commitments as well. So they're all doing festivals and events all over the island. It's a business for them, and they try and work as much as they possibly can. So there are gaps, and we fill those gaps as best we can with the various vendors that we've got that we're aware of. I don't know how many there are in the sort of immediate area. I'm going to guess between Duncan and Courtney, there's probably about 20, 25. I've got a list of most of them. We've talked to them. We've had them come in various times. Some of them love it. Some of them don't want to play. So, but yes, we create opportunities as much as we possibly can. And I might add, we charge them a daily rate. That rate fluctuates. While we pay the city a set fee on a monthly basis, the rate that we charge the vendors varies from month to month because the business varies from month to month. So last year, I think we paid $28,000. We did pay the $100 and joined the PDBA as associate members. And I had a conversation with Ms. Bottomley a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about that, and she said she would wait to see if we were successful with the RFP, and I said we would be associate members anyway. We're supportive of each other in terms of our organizations. We do things together, we meet together, we discuss common concerns, all of those things. I'm happy to be an associate member. I'm sure we could figure out a way to increase that to the trucks. But I'd have to discuss that with them. I don't want to speak on their behalf. That's a decision that they would make. They're independent contractors. They work with us because we're able to make the scheduling work, but that's the relationship. They don't work for us.
Councillor O'Brien.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for coming out today. Just a couple of questions. One of your replies just now just prompted another question, so I got a two-parter going on here. You mentioned anyways that the contribution to the city was approximately $28,000 last year. In that amount to the city, I understand that the food truck pads that are down there, there's two of them. There's two 30-amp or maybe just one 30-amp service going in there too. The food trucks use those 30-amp breakers, obviously. It's somewhat eases their cooking concerns and so forth, I would suggest, and then also water as well. Is that correct? So that would be a cost to the city, would it not? Or is there an independent levy put on for use of services or not? Because I understand some service trucks that end up in the middle of a field, they're totally self-contained. So just a quick question, do they pay the same rate whether they use service or not?
Yeah, we encourage them to use the service. We don't want generators running. It's noisy. It's a deterrent to people in and around the area, just fumes, etc. So we encourage them to use the electricity. The water's there. They use it. They don't have to. They are all self-contained if they need to be. But particularly with regard to the electricity, I don't want them running generators down there if they don't have to.
And as a follow-up, part two of the question, I too understand the popularity or the draw that, well, I didn't understand it. So I, like Councillor Greer, went to my daughters and asked, who are big food truck fans. And so I said, okay, what is it with these food trucks? I said, why is it that you like them, and why is it you actually follow them from town to town? So the comment that came back right away, they said, well, they're good food and they're cheap. And I said, how do you mean cheap? They said, cheaper than a restaurant. I said, cheaper than a bricks and mortar at the side of the road? They said, yes. And I said, what else is the draw about this thing? And they said, you don't have to do a gratuity other than whatever pocket change you just have in you. When you go to bricks and mortar, we're accustomed to paying a 15%, at least, anyways, gratuity on it. So I said, so that's part of the draw? They said, yeah, because that way we can use the food trucks more often and we don't have to pack lunches and all the rest of it. So that led me to believe that, okay, that's fine. So then the food trucks can offer a good product, a good quality product for a lesser price. But the reason they can do so is because, A, the staff aren't making as much money because they're not making gratuities. And the other thing is that they are actually just doing it for a short period of time for, say, is it a 4-month period? Or 5-month period, say?
It's a 5-month period in the community park, but I think that their season is longer than that in terms of other events and things that they attend to. I mean, Knockanann has been, they go to Mount Arrowsmith Brewery on a regular basis. They've been down at the beach in Qualicum every day for the last several months. Don't know if they're down there in this weather, but and in terms of cost, I'm just trying to think that I think a burger is somewhere between $8 and $10, and I'm not sure that that's that much cheaper than in a restaurant. And as far as tips are concerned, they all have a tip jar out. Whether it gets used or not, that's up to the customer. I don't know.
My suggestion to the pricing then would be, if I'm running a bricks and mortar, I'm going to take my profit markup and I'm going to have to base that on staying in business for 12 months out of the year and keeping my staff employed for 12 months out of the year. So if a food truck is working, say, 6, even 7 months out of the year, they have less of an overhead, and everything is based on margin, right? And that's the business that I ran. So the thing is that if I have to have all those costs built in, utilities included, for the whole year as compared to a food truck, maybe that's why the food truck can offer a cheaper price, which then becomes a draw. So I'm not sure that it's a draw, other than the fact, as my daughter pointed out, it's more convenient and it's easier and it's cheaper. So the thing is that if cheap comes down to it, everybody's on a budget, right? So the thing is that I think it's fair to consider the fact that a bricks and mortar has probably a higher overhead per year than a food truck would have for a year.
I think you're absolutely correct, and they also have a much larger customer base. I'm not convinced that, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to defend the mobile vendor industry, because I think it's something that belongs in the continuum of service that's available in our community. The Chamber doesn't make any money at this, right? We managed to glean a little bit of an admin fee for our bookkeeper's time for billing and remitting, and that's about it. But it's a good thing in the community. We talk about having a vibrant downtown. This contributes to a vibrant downtown. I'm not convinced that a mobile vendor is in direct competition with a bricks and mortar restaurant. I think it's a matter of choice. Somebody said it, that some people like that kind of food. Some people want to go into a restaurant and sit down and be a little bit more comfortable. So, it's whether you want to buy your nuts and bolts at a dollar store or the hardware store. Both are available, and it's a customer choice. So I'm not totally convinced that it's a competition, and competition is good in business. You know that. It ups everybody's game. So I think there's a lot of room for both, is the bottom line. In terms of dollars and cents and who's got the most overhead, definitely a bricks and mortar restaurant has way more overhead. But they've also got more opportunity for service. They're open longer hours. They've got a broader variety of food. They can attract a broader variety of customer, all of those other things. The research that I've looked at says that the mobile vendor business draws people to a community, and they take advantage of other services in the community.
Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for coming, and Caitlin, appreciate you guys both being here. I got 3 or 4 questions, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. So the number of trucks we talked about is probably around 7 trucks, you were saying, and are we talking about Z's, samosas, and yeah, country cuisine? And
Yeah, Country Cuisine, Z, AJ, Extreme Eats, Belinda, Mini Don't, not
Becky, rolling cones?
Bees, whatever it is,
Bees
Mini
Knees.
Donuts,
Bees
Bees
Knees,
Knees, Rolling Cones, and Horst's Just Fries.
Okay, thank you.
And we won't put, we try to balance it so that we don't get Belinda and Rolling Cones at the same time, because we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to have food and a confection.
So just as a follow-up to that, there's been lots of conversation about always wanting to have ice cream because it's such a popular aspect down there. Well, on a good day, absolutely. Is it something that could be a possibility of the second confection truck switching over to make sure she has ice cream, a couple of flavors, or would she consider that?
Yeah, we've done that. Belinda has, I think, smoothie machines, and she also, and Andrea sells the prefab ice cream bars. So yeah, we've done that.
Another quick little follow-up here. Do you see just staying with the once a year scenario being a real issue for you? Is there a time factor involved? Just allowing us to maybe rewrite the RFP at times after the 12 months? Is there a deterrent not having it a longer period?
I'd like to get rid of September. Okay? There's no business in September unless the weather is impeccable. What we'd actually like to see included in the RFP is an option to go down there in September, but with no charge associated with it. The business is so they can sit down there all day and not sell a thing. So, and they often do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've seen that myself. In August, you have 3 trucks operating.
We can fit 3 trucks on the pad.
Has that been
And-
typical? Or?
Well, the first couple of years we did it with 3. Then there was a restriction in a contract that told us we could only have 2. And then last year we came back and asked for 3, and we're successful there. It's just more variety, and if they fit, they fit.
Okay. One more quick follow-up, actually 2 fast ones. In the terms of the requirement of the trucks being members of the Chamber of Commerce, that was set up, I know, when you and I first got things set up. And do you see that as being something that the trucks would see as a problem if that was a mandate to the new contract again for the PDBA as well?
No. We could encourage it, and we could make an adjustment in their fees accordingly, so it's not an enormous cost for them. We can make it work. We can make anything work. It's just a matter of everybody being on the same page and working together to make it work. You know, in terms of, like I say, the garbage thing that has become an issue. We're going to deal with it because we want to make it work. So we all want the same thing. We all want the best for the community park, for the city, for the business community. It's just a matter of sitting down and sorting it out so it all works.
Final follow-up. Speaking of garbage, that's definitely been an issue for a lot of people. I know that when you're dealing with those containers, they fold up and they're pretty heavy and they're thick, and by the time you shove them into a garbage can, you can have a pretty full garbage can pretty quickly. I guess my thoughts would be, is there any potential of looking at some sort of a program where people that aren't going to be taking away and maybe are eating at the tables can be dealing with sort of a plastic tray type setup where the trucks would all administer that with, say, a piece of wax paper on top, the food goes on, or potentially, if that's not something that can be done, then would you be able to put a recycling program together that would manage the cardboard that comes off of the truck? So in other words, the food gets dumped in the bin here, folks, and the paper goes into this bin right here, sort of stacked in.
We can, but what I get back from the trucks is that people in the park use their garbage as well, who are not necessarily food truck customers. So again, it's a matter of us working together. And, you know, it'd be great if the city had a recycling program in the community park. I don't think they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, again, let's work together and make it work. We have talked about putting another bin down there at our expense, the expense of the operators. They're prepared to pay the monthly, and putting another bin down there, so because they take their garbage home with them and then dump it. Okay, so we offered to let them use the dumpster at the chamber, and out of that came the conversation around putting another bin in the community park, if we can make that work, so that there's a place for them to dump, and then they'd be able to dump more frequently as well. As far as a recycling program, yes, let's do that, but let's do it together.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I think cutting down the waste there is, you know, much preference over bringing another bin in would be to get rid of a lot of that waste. I think that'd be really good for the community, and a really good thing to look forward to for the next 5 years or so, especially. So, thank you.
One more? Okay.
Has there been any requests or a desire from the food trucks to be located anywhere else in the park, like down by the hovercraft landing or out by the ball fields?
Yeah, we tried them over by the ball fields one year. Trying to remember. It wasn't great. Don't know why. I think because we thought we'd do it because there was visibility from the highway, and we'd be able to cater a little bit more to some of the sports events that happen on the ball fields. They all bring their own food, and so it didn't go well. Where they are right now is the best spot. The hovercraft pad, I know that there was a vendor tried to rent kayaks, I think, down there, and it didn't go well. They weren't, the traffic isn't really there. The traffic is in that central area, in and around the volleyball pitch, and you know that's where all the activity is with the Lions children's play area and all of that. So I think it's probably in the best location that it could be.
Just one other quick question. Maybe you can help with the information. Near the tail end of last year in the summertime, there was a food truck trailer type of thing located on, actually, I guess it's the Park Sands, the campsite property there. Is set up kind of in a rather rough fashion. Any affiliation with your organization, Kim, or was he on his own, or how did that play out?
It was one of the operators that works with us, but wasn't something that we set up. It wasn't anything that we put together. Again, they work with us. They don't work for us.
My turn. It was, a park of this size has to have food there. I don't think there's any doubt in our mind. There has to be a food source supply down there. It was the city's decision. It wasn't the Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't the food truck operators that decided to expand the washrooms to the tune of $300,000 or whatever it costs us. Pardon? $386,000 to put in the washrooms and eliminate the existing concession stand. So having said that, we do need, at this point in time, since there aren't any concessions, there isn't a concession stand in the park, we need the food trucks. I think that's a given. You know, the purpose here was to decide if there was a significant hindrance to the businesses from downtown, whether it affected the restaurants and that. We certainly haven't heard a lot to justify that statement to any great other than Councillor Patterson's observations from her own experiences. We have to keep going forward with this. How long, or should we be deciding to put a concession stand back in? Those are all things that I don't know the answers without having some more information, but I think at this point in time, we need to go forward with it. Whether we need to go forward with it for 1 year so that we have a year to look into the possibility of going back to a concession stand concept, or do we need to go 3 years to eliminate the amount of work by our staff and also by the Chamber of Commerce for handling all of this this process? That's something that we need to decide here today, if you will. So I will leave it at that, and I'll look at my trusty book of notes and find out what I've got to do next. Councillor Patterson, sorry. I thought I was looking this way.
That's all right. Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, can I ask a question to our CEO, Kiva Keller? Sure. And that, Kiva, at this point in time, as this is a committee meeting of the whole, can we put forward a motion to have the request for proposal at this point in time? I realize that sometimes time is of essence with business, and I'm not sure what the closing date would require to be for the city. If you could just answer some questions.
Thanks. If I may, through the mayor to Councillor Patterson, essentially what would happen is if council wishes to make any recommendations, they can do so, and it would go to the February 20th meeting. If the committee just hears items today and doesn't make any additional recommendations or motions, we have the report coming back to council on the 20th anyway for a final decision, and we would be in a position to, if council were to direct us to issue the RFP essentially right away. We typically have done the RFP kind of for the month of March, so it wouldn't be a significant delay from previous years. And at that time, council, when we look at it at the 20th, council can let us know whether they're interested in the 1 year, 3 year option. That's something that we would actually nail down in the license itself, and that comes back to council for approval of the vendors or the proponent and the actual terms of the license. So many of the items discussed here today we can incorporate into the license at that point as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. That being said, can I ask a question to the Chamber? Would it be your purview to have a 1 or a 3 year contract?
Longer term is always easier for us. And I'll just add a note that my board have asked me to take anything back to them before we sign anything with the city. So, you know, we've got some processes that we have to go through. But 3 years is always better in our world. It's just one less thing that we have to do in the spring.
Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. What would a 2 year term be? That would, I like the idea of a 2 year term. That would give us a chance to do some other work there. 3 years kind of almost puts us to the end of our term.
It'd be 1 year less than a 3 year.
I realize that, but it doesn't. So you'd be happy with a 2 year rather than a 1 year or a 3 year. Makes no difference. Good, thanks.
Councillor Fraz. If you say 18 months, I'll shoot you.
Well, I guess I'm done. Just kidding. No, I'm just quickly like say I do like the idea of the 2 year with renewal for 1 year. Keeps it as a 3 year within a term. But what I think was really important that I heard from Kim was speaking about September, to have that, you know, if that's an issue that they've identified and it becomes a strain on the food trucks and maybe not so appealing for them to be part of it, I don't think we should be putting them in a position where they're suffering, or at least trying to work with them if it's better for them, better for the community. So maybe something around relaxing the September rule, or, you know, going with half of September, or something around that anyways. I just think it's important feedback that we heard from Kim, so I think we should look into that.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Kim. With the change in the September, that, because I know seeing the May times were fairly bleak too at certain points in time. Would there be a scenario where tightening it up, saying May 15th to September 15th would work, and have those, still having those variables in there to be able to not operate during the rough days? And
We can make anything work. It's just a matter of committing to working together.
I'm just trying to remember what May looked like
May,
this year.
May is not great, but it's better than September.
Right.
September's awful. Okay, it starts to rain, people don't go down to the park, tourists are gone. But on a sunny Sunday, it can be great.
Mayor, sorry, just as a follow-up, I was going to say...
When you're done, let me know, and then...
I was just going to say that my feeling on it is, and I'm not trying to create extra work, but I think this is the kind of project that needs to get looked at yearly. I think that's my personal opinion on it. I realize it's a little bit extra work and so on, but it's not a whole lot of extra work. So I'm of the agreement that a one-year program would be a great way to go, and rather than a 2-year with guaranteed automatic renewal. So that's just my comment. So.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? We need a resolution to take to the next meeting, or are you okay?
If I may, we don't need any resolution unless there's something different that council wants to direct us to consider on the 20th. Also on the 20th, councillors can bring up amendments or additional items for consideration and vote on them right there and then.
Councillor Fraz wants to go to the 22nd of, no, what would you like to?
Just for the sake of having something go forward to for our next council meeting then, could I make a recommendation or move that we amend the proposal period to be for a 1-year term coming up with the relaxation on September, so we can see how that goes, and the following year then we can look at extending the contract depending how that works out. It gives us a little bit of time to iron out any wrinkles, or if there's other things that surface in that time, since it's this will be our first year for this council to be together.
Could it?
So as a motion, do you need that as a motion?
They're going to do it so that if we agree, once we're done, then they will draft the motion for the next meeting.
And I guess with that too, what I could add is if it says, because this the RFP goes out as a on a 1-year term right now, if we do it for 1 year with the option for renew, that doesn't have to go out as an RFP again. It's just a commitment that gets agreed upon. So essentially, it could be a 2-year. That's what I would like to put forward.
Well, now it's now you've taken away my thunder, because that's what I was going to suggest, was a 1 year with a 1-year option, so that nothing comes in the way, and the chamber just keeps right on boogieing along without having to go through the request for proposal again. I think that's a really good compromise for the 2 years that Councillor Greer is looking for, and so on. So I'm okay with that. So do you want the resolution? Do you want some direction on this, or?
If I may, through the mayor.
If I could just mention, I wasn't looking for 2 years. I just wanted to find out what he felt like if it
Oh,
was 2 years.
okay.
I'm actually very supportive of the 1 year.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, if Councillor Frass wants to make that as a motion, it would then show up as a recommended motion to be adopted on the 20th, and then we would need a seconder and to vote on it. And if not, Councillor Frass can bring it up again exactly as he has, and you can vote on it then. So there's flexibility.
Okay, so I'd like to move the recommendation that we direct to issue the RFP for the occupation of the 2 existing mobile food vendors, as it's written here, for 1-year term, with the option to renew for a further year, and then having September be flexible or optional for at the discretion of the trucks to operate.
We like 3 trucks on the pad. Is that an issue?
No, your contract says 3 trucks on the
Thank you.
pad. Oh, did he say 2?
It says it's written as the existing 2 mobile food vending pads, but in that, it's not a lease, but you're allowed 3, yeah. Yeah.